Alan, a couple of things I want to ask you about in the legal world. One, Trump's war against certain law firms. And two, his attempt to rein in California, among other states, in their refusal to comply with his executive order preventing boys from playing in girls' sports. So the war on certain law firms has been very interesting. Trump's got a grudge against some who hired his nemesis and says, you know what, like Paul Weiss, you're no good because you hired this guy who hated me and tried to get me criminally prosecuted. And therefore, I don't think the federal government wants to do business with you anymore, which is a major threat to these law firms because their clients are calling them up saying, hey, if you can't do business with the federal government, I can't have you as my lawyer. Like I'm in an industry that does business with them. I can't lose all my contracts, et cetera. So it's not just Paul Weiss. It's been a law firm, Wilmer Hale, just got a victory because it's one of the handful of, many of the law firms have just submitted to Trump and said, we'll do what you want. And it's included creating like pro bono law work for clients of Trump's preference and so on. Some have fought back, like Wilmer Hale saying, this is totally illegal. You can't interfere with a private law firm, saying you can have these clients and you can't have those lawyers and so on. And on Tuesday, a judge struck down his executive order against Wilmer Hale and was not happy about it. His name is Judge Richard J. Leon of the Federal District Court for the District of D.C. He said it was unconstitutional, must be struck down in its entirety, adding that Mr. Trump appeared, quoting here from the Times, intent on driving the firm to the bargaining table by imposing a kitchen sink of severe sanctions. He said in the ruling, the cornerstone of the American system of justice is an independent judiciary and an independent bar willing to tackle unpopular cases, however daunting. The founding fathers knew this with an exclamation point, wrote Judge Leon in a 73-page opinion, laced with more than 24 exclamation points. Accordingly, they took pains to enshrine in the Constitution certain rights that would serve as the foundation for that independence. Little wonder that in the nearly 250 years since the Constitution was adopted, no executive order has been issued challenging these fundamental rights. And then he ripped into Trump for doing that here. That's how he sees it. My pals over at National Review, like Andy McCarthy, agreed when he first started issuing these things, calling them bills of attainder, which you explain what that is. But that, in my mind, tends to be like singling somebody out for criminal prosecution, like one individual who you're out to get. This isn't exactly that. But what do you make of the war on law firms?
Well, do you know where this idea all came from? It all came from radical Democratic lawyers who started a project called the Project 65. It started during the Biden administration, and its express goal was to punish law firms and lawyers who had defended Donald Trump. So I wrote an op-ed piece saying, if you go after anybody because they defended Donald Trump, I will defend them pro bono. So what do you think they did? They filed a bar charge against me. It cost me over $100,000 to defend myself against frivolous bar charges in Arizona and Massachusetts. I won all my cases, of course, but a bunch of lawyers who were asked to defend Donald Trump said, no, we don't want to be, quote, Dershowitzed. We don't want to have happen to us what happened to Dershowitz. So it all started with Project 65, a group of left-wing lawyers, and there was no objection from the bar. Indeed, there was cooperation by the bar. And so we're seeing a lot of hypocrisy. I don't like what Trump is doing to law firms, but it all started with liberal Democrats, and nobody cared about it then. So this is, again, the application of a double standard. Don't stand up against Donald Trump if you are prepared to stand up, if you were prepared not to stand up against the 65 Project. The 65 Project, look it up. It started all this, and it expressly said it was going after lawyers who defended Donald Trump. So let's understand where this started from. And it's wrong no matter who does it. We should not be weaponizing our legal system. We should not be having warfare on either side. But it's understandable when the left uses lawfare. Going after Donald Trump in the New York case was the worst criminal case I've seen in 60 years of being involved in defending criminals. I've never seen a case as bad as the New York case. So lawfare started with the Democrats, and now we're seeing tit-for-tat reprisals by the Republicans. Both are wrong.
Yep, right on. Okay, so on the boys and girls sports issue, Trump issued an executive order saying that needs to stop and clarifying that Title IX means what it says it means, which is it's a protection of girls in sports and they should have their own sports in which to compete. And that does not include boys who say they, quote, identify as girls. California has made an open vow to not follow that executive order. They say they have a state human rights law that requires that they recognize anybody's claim of gender identity when it comes to sport. And this is coming to a head right now because there is a male runner named A.B. Hernandez who is running in the girls' track meets. In particular, he's doing the long jump and the triple jump, and he's crushing the other girls. I mean, we reported on our morning show today, there was one meet in February in which his long jump was 8 feet longer than the next best competitor, who is female. He's definitely got male advantage. And Trump issued Truth Social 2 days ago saying, you will comply or I will withdraw federal funds from you, the state of California. And he added, I'm directing local authorities to not let this happen on this upcoming weekend where it's the state championships. Now, generally, police power is with the state. The federal government wouldn't be directing local cops on what to do and what not to do. But are either pieces of that threat enforceable in your view?
Well, let's just go back to Governor Wallace, who made the same kinds of statements back in 1954, 1955, and 1966. He said, we have laws in the state, of Mississippi, the state of Alabama, that prohibit black students from going to school with white students, and we're going to enforce our laws. And the federal government said, no, we have a constitutional, and in this case, Article 9, all these
Title
various 9 titles coming in that are federal law. And under the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution, the civil rights laws, federal civil rights laws, trump state laws. And so there is a legal basis for enforcing federal law over the states. And as I say, it goes back to the 50s when the shoe was on the other foot. Again, if the state of California, they would never do it, but if the state were to say we're not going to permit black athletes from participating in basketball because they're too good, and they, or dominate the sport, we would never tolerate that for 1 second. We would never tolerate, we need more diversity in the NBA. No, that's meritocracy. And, when the Indiana Pacers beat the Knicks in a close game, that's because they were a better team. And
debatable.
That's the rule.
That did not go over well in my household, and I think my sons would debate that with you. But yes, I see your point. So you think he can get away with the threat, but can he withdraw federal funds? Is that okay? And what about, is this just empty words to the attempt to direct local authorities not to allow it this weekend at the state championships?
I think ultimately the Supreme Court is going to have to uphold the withholding of federal funds from states and other institutions that violate federal law. It has nothing to do with this particular case. It has to do with the dominance of the Supremacy Clause. Without the Supremacy Clause, you couldn't have the United States of America. There would be the Confederate States. The difference
that where the federal law and the state laws conflict, the federal law will reign supreme. Keep going.
Reign supreme. Otherwise, we're back to the Articles of Confederacy, and that didn't work. And so some of us may not like the way it's being used. And in my family, too, we fight like children about transgender athletes. There are many points of view on that. And it seems to me that President Trump ran on that theory, and the majority of Americans support it, and the law seems to support it. So whatever you think of the policies, I think we're going to see ultimately the Supreme Court upholding most of these Trump initiatives, but demanding that they be done with due process.
This July, there is a global summit of BRICS nations in Rio de Janeiro. The bloc of emerging superpowers, including China, Russia, India, and Iran, are meeting with the goal of displacing the U.S. dollar as the global currency. They're calling this the Rio Reset. As BRICS nations push forward with their plans, some worry global demand for U.S. dollars will decrease, bringing down the value of the dollars in your savings. While this transition, if it happens, would not happen overnight, the Rio Reset could mark a pivotal moment. So learn if diversifying your savings into gold is right for you. Birch Gold Group can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free info kit on gold by texting MK to the number 989898. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, let Birch Gold arm you with a free, no-obligation info kit on owning gold before July and the Rio Reset. Text MK to the number 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.